I suppose the way that books are categorised, it makes it easy for readers. I mean, that's the kind of the best reason I can think of for it. If somebody wants to go and get a crime novel, they know where they are in the shop, or they know where they are in the library. Same as if they want to go and read non-fiction or whatever it is. It makes life a little bit easier. Some books are harder to categorise, and some writers are harder to categorise. Especially writers who will write a crime novel and then say, no, I'm not. The next book is not going to be a crime novel. It's going to be a literary novel that has a murder in it. I don't quite know what the difference is, but there you go. But I suppose, the whole genre issue is a massive can of worms. The thing I particularly hate is when people say, oh, that's a literary crime novel. And you go, what, you just mean a good one? Is that what you mean? Because that's what most crime writers are trying to write. See, there's a sort of snobbery element as well, which goes with, Scandinavian crime fiction is obviously massively popular. And I think one of the reasons it's popular, I think there are several, it's location and all sorts of stuff, and a sort of dryness that people like. But I think one of the reasons it's popular is that the people who claim, I'd never read a crime novel, I'd never read one of those books you buy in an airport, are perfectly happy reading one that's translated from the original Norwegian. And they can sit on it and it's got a nice arty jacket on the front. They go, oh yes, this is a Norwegian novel. And there's a sort of cachet that goes with translated fiction. I think that is one of the reasons behind the success of Scandinavian crime fiction. Yeah, they're translated into, 30 languages or something. And actually one of the places they do best is Scandinavia. Which is quite odd. And it's weird that the sort of snobbery I was alluding to about genre fiction only really exists in this country and in America. It's quite weird. You don't get it in France, you definitely don't get it in Scandinavia. You do the average interview in this country, and where'd you get your ideas from, blah, blah, blah. You go to an interview in Scandinavia, they want to talk to you about your childhood, and they want to talk to you about politics, and they want to... It's kind of... They're odd, as Scandinavians. But yeah, no, they do... it's very hard to make an impact in America. I'm published in America, but most British crime writers, unless they set their books in America, struggle. It's quite hard. I think in some cases that's why they do well, because London is an international city. It's a city people know, or at least think they know, which is why London for me is the perfect setting for a crime novel. I write about London because I live in London. It's important for me to write about the streets I walk down, that I can go to places I'm writing about. But it's a city with a fantastic history. It's a city with a fantastic facade. We've got all these beautiful buildings, and we've got all this tradition, and we've got, look, it's Buckingham Palace and St Paul's Cathedral, but there's a whole world underneath. And for me, that's much more interesting than setting a book in the countryside. I'd rather die than set a book in the countryside. I'm sure there's all manner of horrible things that go on in the Cotswolds, but I'm just not interested. Cities are perfect places to write crime fiction about. Most of the major characters in my books are named after comedians. Some of whom I know, some of whom ask to have characters named after them. Oh, please, could you name a paedophile after me? Okay. So yeah, there's no real significance beyond that. Thorne is a comedian I know called Paul Thorne, and it was just a great name for a character because he's difficult to get rid of. He's a bit spiky, It's odd. It's an odd moment though when you name a character. And the other thing, of course, is that increasingly you in order to support certain charities, you auction off character names. So people bid at auctions for various things for charities to have a name, and you agree to it, and then you're crossing your fingers desperately that they're not going to be called, Nora Shufflebottom or something. And, you get unlucky. Or sometimes you get lucky. But, you have to honour it. They're old books, actually, and they're actually right now being dramatised on Radio 4. The Martin Beck novels, written by Per Valu and Marge Sowell. A long time ago, 40 years ago, 50 years ago. But they were an awful lot of modern day crime writers in this country were hugely influenced by them, and it's odd that most people have never heard of them or the books. A series of 10 books about this policeman Martin Beck, and they knock Stieg Larsson into a cocked hat. They really, really do. I like Joe Nesbo. I like his Harry Hole character. Harry Hole character. I shouldn't even say Joe Nesbo. Your Nesbo. They're terrific as well. There's a lot of great Scandinavian writers. There's also a lot of terrible Scandinavian writers. But suddenly Scandi crime is the big thing. One of the problems I think with the big success of Scandinavian crime fiction is that it's slightly shut the door on an awful lot of really good French, Spanish, Italian. You know, it's just not trendy anymore. So hopefully it's maybe peaked, the Scandi trend. Because I'm lucky. I'm one of the 5% of writers in this country, 5% of published writers who write full time. I don't have another job. So I've got no excuse. You know, I mean, writers talk about 1,000 words a day. Writers tend to talk about that magical 1,000 words a day. If I can write 1,000 words a day, I'm doing nothing else all year, except maybe a couple of months when I'm touring, promoting another book. That's a book a year. Sometimes people say a book a, you know, people don't think a book a year, think a year isn't enough time to write a book. But I, you know, tell that to, you know, there's no link between quantity and quality. You know, all the writers I respect write a book a year. Because it's their job, that's what they do. They go to work, they sit down, they go to work, they write a book. A year is ample. If you're going to take 7-8 years to write a book, it better be a seriously good book. You know, if you're one of the 95% of published writers in this country who is also a doctor or a teacher or a barman or whatever, who is getting up at 5 in the morning to write for a couple of hours before they go to work and doing the same thing when they come home, then yeah, that may take 2 or 3 years to write a book, and I've got enormous respect for people that do that. I've got nothing else to do except look out the window. Well, the odd thing is, I'd probably pick one of the standalones, only because that was, you know, stepping out of the comfort zone, which you have to do every so often. Because the problem with writing a series, every writer that writes a series lives in fear of the series going past its sell-by date, because there are plenty of them. And in order to not to do that, I'm trying to do what other writers I respect do, which is to step away from it every couple of books and do something else. Take a year off, take a book off, do something different, and then come back hopefully a bit fired up and refreshed. That's the theory anyway. So writing those books that weren't Thorne novels, and weren't even, you know, Rush of Blood is not a police procedural at all, it's just about 3 couples that meet on holiday. And that was really enjoyable, really enjoyable. Although I'm now back writing a Thorne novel and really enjoying it, because I haven't written about him for a year, so that.